Hey Ottawa, this is your Monday market snapshot for the Ottawa real estate market on Monday, October 23rd, 2023. My name is Annalee Rice and I'm a realtor here in Ottawa, Ontario, and every week I bring you the information of what's going on in the Ottawa real estate market. Let's get going. Okay, so first off, we'll look citywide. We see that there is an increase for the number of active listings. This week we increased by 42, which is a lesser increase than what we've seen the last couple weeks. Sales this week were up just slightly, up by 3 this week. The sales were most notably in the detached market. Sales of townhomes were a little bit slower this week. When we look at it in graph form, illustrates the slow climb overall of the inventory over the last 3 weeks as the number of active listings continues to increase week by week. Sales remain slightly lower than the conditional sales, which shows me that there are still sales that are coming and that we're not slowing down too abruptly this fall. When we look at the new listings, there were 400 properties listed this week. It's slightly below what we saw last week. However, 137 of the properties this week, or 34%, were properties that were relisted, and 263, or 66%, were new to the market this week. So when you look at the actual new listings, that's the blue line, you'll see that the actual number of new listings is a fair bit lower than what we had last week, and that the gray line in proportion is climbing. So that's the relisted properties. So this next chart is the sales to new listings ratio. I've decided to create sort of a secondary chart to illustrate a little bit more on just the new to the market listings and then compared to the sales. This is one of the metrics that can be used to determine whether or not we're in a seller's market, a buyer's market, or a more balanced market. The other thing is the months of inventory, which I regularly share. So this is the new to the market listings, that's the blue line, and then the sales. I removed the other two lines. But then what I did is it's a ratio of the two of those. And so when you see the yellow line above that tiny dash line, the dotted line, that's at 50, the yellow line is a percentage. And so when you see it much higher than 50 upwards, closer to 100 there, we're definitely in a seller's market. And then as you see in the last couple times in the last month and a half or so, we've dipped down below that 50% line. So we're having more listings, fewer sales, and so we're dipping below. So if that line continues to dip down and gets well below that 50%, that's where you start getting into the buyer's market. And so it's just another way to look at how our market is. This is for all properties across the city, so I may in the next week or so see if I can break it out into the different property types so we can see, because there definitely could be differences on detached market versus condos and such. Okay, so back to the sales breakdown. We had 21% of the homes that sold this week sold with no conditions. That's up definitely from what we saw last week of the 14%, which was, I do believe it was a bit of a blip, but it's lower than what we've seen throughout most of the spring. Now, what did increase but still remains quite low is the number of homes selling within that first 7 days. So only 9% of the homes this week sold within the first 7 days, and 42% of those sold with no conditions. And 46% of the homes that sold this week sold within the first 30 days. And that percentage continues to drop as we have higher inventory and longer times on the market. Okay, so next we'll move into the different areas of the city for some more details. In the central urban region, so that's inside the Greenbelt, our active listings for detached and towns increased while the number of condos on the market decreased. And sales were down a little bit for detached market, but then we had a bit of a bounce back for the condo sales. From last week was a bit of a abnormality of really low sales for condos, so it bounced back a little bit this week. In Canada and Stittsville, we see that the inventory levels climb for both detached and condos. It was generally a pretty slow market for properties going conditionally sold in Canada, although the detached market you see for sales did climb. I'm kind of tracking this a little bit more accurately than in more detail than other areas, because I have a home for sale right now for Canada. There was a lot of detached homes that were sitting conditionally sold, and a lot of those cleared and went firm sold this week. So that bumped it up to 14 detached sales in Canada this last week. Townhome sales dropped by 6 this week, and condo sales were flat at 3. In Barrhaven and Riverside South, we had a slight increase in inventory across property types, and the sales were flat for detached homes, quite slow at only 6, and townhomes slightly lower, condos slightly higher. And in Orleans, also similar, we've got a slight increase in the number of active listings across property types. And in this case, we had a slight decrease in the number of sales across property types, and actually quite notably for condominiums. But you did remember last week there was 11 condominiums that sold, and that was really abnormally high. So this is a lot more realistic for Orleans. As always, I've got the full details in the data in chart format for residential townhomes, detached, and also for condominiums. Okay, so it was a pretty quick update for this week. I did want to let you know that I've been looking to see whether or not the sales in October are dropping significantly from September, and my indications, everything that I've looked at, looks like we're going to have a really overall slow month for October. They've been kind of consistent the last couple weeks, but we did have a super slow start with around the Thanksgiving weekend, and I just think there's not enough time to catch back up. So I do expect that the sales volume, like next week, will be very close to the end of the month. So I'll have the charts that I include. So I'll show the overall sales. And with sales being so much slower and the inventory being so much higher, it's been increasing all month. I do expect that the months of inventory across the different property types is going to climb quite a bit, and it may show that we're solidly in at least a balanced market. I don't think we're at a buyer's market on by the numbers yet, but we'll have that detail more next week when I have all the charts for the end of the month. I hope you have a fantastic week.